I'm here with Robert C.Martin, a.k.a. Uncle Bob, who's visiting AOL Dublin this week to talk about clean code. Bob, during your course we explored lots of interesting concepts, but what is the fundamental idea underlying clean code?
The fundamental idea is that it's a good idea for people to do a good job. Everyone has had the experience that bad code slows them down. They look at some bad code, they look on their screen and it impedes their progress. It makes them go slow. The idea behind clean code is that we want to avoid that slowdown. We want to be able to go fast all the time. And the way you go fast all the time is to stay clean all the time. So this is stuff our mother taught us a long time ago. You know, don't make a mess in your room and don't make a mess in the dishes and the sink. It's the same idea. If we stay clean all the time, then we'll be able to go fast.
Here at AOL we're always trying to attract the best talent. What makes a great software developer, or how do you become a software craftsman?
Well, let's see. How do you become a software craftsman? You become a software developer first, and then you wait 40 years, and then you may be a software craftsman. It does take a lot of time and experience. There's a fair bit of life lessons to learn. Probably a good approach for a young person is to find a mentor, someone who's been in the business a while, someone that you can attach yourself to and learn from. Several mentors would be a good idea. There are companies that have begun apprenticeship programs. This is a very good idea, to bring in young folks and have them for 6 or 8 or 12 months study under other more experienced developers before they really take on the tasks of production software development. A good developer is going to read an awful lot. You need to read blogs, you need to read books, you need to read articles, you need to read code, you need to read lots of things, and it's a consuming job. Your employer will require 35, 40 hours a week from you, but the job of being a full-time developer is a 60-hour-a-week job. And if you're not prepared to do that, you shouldn't really be in this role. You're going to go home, you're going to spend time on the weekends reading, playing, coding, studying, maybe an hour in the evenings after the kids are in bed. I used to make a deal with my wife. The kids would go to bed, she would go to bed, I'd get the hours from 10:30 to 11:30, right? And I would use that hour to help develop my career. I'd write some code or I'd read something. I would often take a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday morning when all the kids were still asleep and everybody was sound asleep. I'd get up really early and then I'd read my book. So there are many things that you can do, but it's going to take work and it'll require effort, and the payoff is terrific.
The software industry is constantly evolving, new languages, new paradigms. Over the course of your career, what have been the most significant developments that you've seen?
So,
Good question.
Well, let me answer it this way. This device has 500 billion transistors in it. When I started my career, computers were had just stopped being built out of vacuum tubes. If this were built out of vacuum tubes, it would take several thousand buildings of this size to hold them. They would require 170 vehicle assembly buildings, the big building at NASA. 2,500 Nimitz-class aircraft carriers in mass. It would require a full terawatt of power to power. You'd need to build 500 2-gigawatt nuclear power plants all around here to power it. It would cost $50 trillion, the economic output of the world, and there would be no one to call. This is the economic output of the world. This marks what's happened in my career. The most significant thing that's happened in my career is that we have changed the technology that we deal with by 22 orders of magnitude or more. So that now I hold in my hand the computing power of the world in the 1950s. This is a machine that is more powerful than the supercomputers of the 1960s that used to do all the weather calculation, right? That's a significant fact. And what do we do with it? We play Angry Birds.
So following on from that, where do you see the software industry going in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, so it's interesting because with all of that massive advance, all of that technological growth, what have we in software done? And the answer to that is very little. If I took someone from the 60s and put them in front of my laptop and showed them my software editor, they'd need 24 hours to recover from the shock, but after that, they would be able to write the code, because the code's not that different. And if I took a programmer from today and put him back into the 60s in front of a teletype, they'd need 24 hours to recover from the disappointment, but then they would be able to write the code, because the code is not that different. What we do today is not that different from what we did 40 years ago. We do more of it. There's a lot more of us doing it. But the practices and developments are very much the same. So there haven't been significant changes to the software industry, massive changes to the hardware. But software developers still do the same thing they did 40 years ago.
So the core principles you pick up when you're young will apply in 20, 30 years' time?
Certainly what I picked up 40 years ago still apply today. We've learned a few things about discipline. We've learned a few things about ethics, what makes good code, what makes bad code, what disciplines to use when writing code. Those things we've learned, how to write tests, why to write tests. But those are discipline level things, professionalism level things, not technologies.
So it's been absolutely fantastic to have you here this week. What are your thoughts on the culture here at AOL?
I've been very touched by the hospitality and the pleasantness and politeness. It's one of the more unique experiences I've had. The software developers here are eager to learn, and they're very bright. And when I'm doing a course, they're full of questions and challenges, and that's always very exciting.